Hi Math 2, this is Miss Van Vickle, and this is video 1 in your videos about Pacman Poly. Today we're going to figure out how to raise a power to a power when we're dealing with polynomials. So our first video is going to talk about what to do when raising a power to a power. And when we do that, we want to multiply our exponents. And we've written down the rule here for you. If you have a to the m power and you're raising it to the n power, that becomes a to the m times n power. Let's look at an example with some numbers. If I have x to the third power and I'm raising that to the fifth power, I'm going to multiply 3 times 5, and that gives me x to the 15th power. One of the things we have to be careful of is when we have a coefficient. In this example, in the rule, think of a as a coefficient of b. We have to raise a to the m times n power. And we also have to raise b to the m times n power. So how that might work with some numbers is in example 1. Let's take a look at this. Attention, coefficients. What is inside these parentheses is being raised to the second power. And I like to rewrite the coefficient as 3 to the first power and x to the fifth. And that reminds me that I also need to take the coefficient to the second power. So if I multiply my exponents, I get 3 to the second power times x to the 10th power. And I would go ahead and resolve this and call it 9x to the 10th. So notice I raised my variable to the second power, and I also raised my coefficient to the second power. We can think of this another way. When we square something, we're actually multiplying it times itself. And notice we end up with a 3 times 3 when we do it that way. So that's what attention coefficients means. It is so tempting just to raise the x to the 10th power and to ignore this little guy here, this 3, and we don't want to do that. So let's take a look at example 2. I'm going to go ahead and rewrite it as negative 2 to the first power, m to the third power, and n to the first power. And I'm taking all of that to the fourth power. So let's go ahead and multiply our exponents. 1 times 4 is m to the third raised to the fourth power is going to be m to the 12th and n to the fourth. Now we need to take negative 2 to the fourth power. So that becomes negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. And if I look at this, I end up with positive 8. This is positive 16. This gives me positive 4. This gives me negative 8. And this gives me positive 16. So I end up with 16m to the 12th n to the 4th. And that's the answer that I want to give for this problem. Let's take a look at example 3. It gets just a little bit more complicated. I'm going to ignore this negative 2 for just one moment because I'm not raising that negative 2 to the second power. And the way I can tell that is it's outside the parentheses. So what I want to do is take 1/3 and a to the 6th and rewrite them with their exponents. And I'm just going to copy this negative 2 down in front so I don't forget about it. And then I'm going to multiply my exponents. 1/3 to the 1 times 2 power, a to the 6 times 2 power. And now I have multiplied my exponents. And now let's go ahead and take 1/3 to the second power. Well, 1/3 times 1/3 is equal to 1/9. So I would write this as negative 2 times 1/9 times a to the 12th. And then what I notice is I can go ahead and multiply. Negative 2/9 a to the 12th. And this is the answer I want to give for this problem. So this ends video 1 of Pacman for Polys. And we learned how to take a power to a power. Now it's time for you to practice.